Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. Excellent. Good. That's called crowd interaction. Hi. So my name is Joe Neary, as you may have guessed from the amazing introduction by Jessamine. Before I start, I want to give a big thank you for Bright Club for having me here. I've been an audience member for a long time, so it's really nice to be asked to be a part of it. The first time I came to Bright Club, the very first act came on stage and said, "Oh, I only got my PhD 2 weeks ago." It's like, lads, I do not have a PhD. And I think even given another 2 weeks, I would not have one. I believe I was asked to come on stage because I work in the video games industry. I've been working with Romero Games for the last 5 years. I apparently stutter when I am nervous, oh shit. And I plan to be working there for another 5 years. I work in the QA department. For those of you not familiar with the games industry, QA stands for quality assurance. It is my job to find issues before they become apparent and are sold to people. So while we're making the game, I'll be trying to find issues and breaking them. So my job is kind of to play games all day, which is class to say to people, but it's also way more stressful than that. I was also told to maybe bring up some of the other things I do. So on top of playing video games for a living, I also sell paintings I make and run a radio show. So none of my jobs are hard. They're great. My dad worked in construction all his life and was like, "Joe, please don't go into construction. It's cost me my body and stuff." So I was just like, cool, I'm not even going to use my mind. But for real, that joke got a bigger laugh than I was expecting. So I work in video games, and that's amazing in class. And now I'm going to break down all the real parts of that to make it seem less class, unfortunately. I come to work in the morning, aka get out of bed and turn on my computer, because that's the world we live in at the moment. I load up a build which has been made by a bunch of other people. Oh, I should say that because I work in the video games industry, almost everything I'm done is covered by NDAs. I'm not sure how large that extends, so I'm not going to be able to say too much, but I am going to use generalities and swearing to make up for that. So a build gets made in the morning. All the coders and all the artists have done something incredible and amazing and created this thing that's not really a fully made game yet, but it can be turned on, you can interact with it, you can test features. So I'll turn it on, and provided all the things are working correctly, which rarely happens all the way through, it's just what's up. It turns out things are very, 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 very complicated, and you've got a bunch of really, really talented people making things that are amazing. But I think the metaphor I use is we've got some of the world's greatest gear makers, and they make a bunch of amazing gears, but they don't always work together correctly. So even some incredibly talented people will make stuff that literally nukes the entire project, and it doesn't work for 2 days. But never for too long, and it's always good and great. So when I find an issue, I'm like, oh fuck, shit's broken. I write down a very complicated list of ways in which the shit has become broken. I pass that off to somebody much more talented than I, and then they get given a sort of priority list of things. So if the game is working still, it's not entirely fucked up, it's like, okay, we'll fix that in a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, a year. If the game is no longer turning on, they'll fix that in 10 minutes. It's just the way things work out. Sometimes I get ideas in my head. It's like this issue is the biggest thing in the world, and it'll be like, I don't like the color of this person's hat. And I'm like, I just don't. Please fix it. And it's like, that is not a realistic way to. That is not how priorities work. But it is for me. Other things I said that I did, I'm a painter. I should probably plug my own shit. At the end of the street, there's 2 wild geese. You can buy my paintings in there for €150 each. Please do. I really like money. It's great. The radio show that I do is called Famous Last Words. It's on Flirty FM every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We had a little break from COVID, but we're going to be back again soon, so I can't wait to terrorize people with my amazing music that everyone loves, especially not just me. So when after we do the shit's broken dance of I send off an issue, it gets fixed, it comes back again, I papered over some of the things in there. Like any good scientist knows that when you get an interesting result one time, that is interesting, but it's an anomaly. You need to get an interesting result every single time. So if something's broken once in one way, interesting, class. But if you show a screenshot of a character doing a handstand, what they shouldn't to a programmer, they'll be like, that's a character doing a handstand. I have no idea how that happened. Please explain how you got this. And if you can't do it again, we can't figure out what's wrong. We can't fix it. So much like using the scientific method, hey, we're doing science, you find the exact conditions where it occurred and then try to recreate them. And once you've got all the steps in place, you make that, then you can hand it to anybody. Then they can recreate it on their machine, and then they'll be like, oh, fuck, it is broken. I will fix this. Thank you. So I wanted to draw the parallel between that and just, it's cool when a Dublin lab gets an interesting result, but if they can't reproduce that in like Zurich or Galway, then it's just an interesting result once it's not really science yet, it's just class, good study, but maybe you didn't turn your machine on correctly. I am not entirely sure how long I have left, but I've got a bunch more jokes, but how much time do I have left? Oh, it's sake, I'm gonna keep on talking. One of the things that I really like about working in game development is you get to work really closely with a lot of different people that all have really widely different skills. Because I think I've worked in advertising before and I've worked in marketing and web development, but all the people in those industries, while there are like, everybody's got talents and everybody's doing things, games is the only people where like, I'm on a floor with a bunch of artists and above us is a bunch of coders and everybody's doing their own thing, but they're all like really interesting and cool and everybody's got their own side projects that they're doing. Like half the game developers I work with are doing like 8 other things. And so I was like, oh shit, you don't just do this one impressive thing, you're doing all this other crap. Don't make me feel bad about myself. You already make so much money. I didn't say this earlier, but the place I work at, Romero Games, is literally at the end of the street. I wasn't aware that this place had a bar in it. That could be career-ending information. People say that if you blank on stage, you should talk about it, so that's what I'm doing now. Pause for applause. Excellent, that worked. I'm here to tell you jokes. All right, and now I've just remembered some of my set. Excellent. So when I first started in the games industry, there's a bunch of different types of things people talk about. There's a bunch of like internal games industry lingo that you don't know about. So a stand-up is a thing called, the meeting in the morning is called stand-up. Everyone from every department stands up and they're like, I did this yesterday, tomorrow I'll do this, today I'm going to be doing this. Excellent. I wasn't just slacking off for that whole time. I was playing video games, I promise. But the first time I walked into the office, my first day on the job, it's like, oh, we have stand-up at 9:30. I had no idea what that meant. And the first thing someone did was made a joke and then did an interpretive dance about like how they had like unfurled the thing. And I was like, oh, so this is actually we're joking now. Good. All right, cool. So like for the first week, I was just like, oh, I did this, and also here's a joke for you. It only took a couple of weeks for that to stop. There's also like, I would go into insane detail. It's like, if you find one bug that's very important, it's important to bring that up at stand-up. But I was like, oh, damn, sometimes the game might not work just a little bit. Is that okay? And they were like, Joe, your stand-up thing seems to go on for like 5 minutes. It's meant to be about 20 seconds. What are you doing here, buddy? But eventually all the kinks in that got worked out. How much time do we have left? Keep talking. Excellent. One of the most interesting things that ever happened in the office, which is now we're just going to dirty stories about all the people that are here today. We've got so many people that came from my office to see what I would talk about them. And now I'm like, oh, I can't tell that story. But it's for real, thank you guys for coming. It's very good to see so many people in the audience and so many stories locked off behind that I can't go into. One thing that I always wanted to, like I said before, it's difficult to come up with something that I can get through to everybody about stuff because I cannot speak in details because we've got a billion lawyers who will just nuclear strike this site from orbit if I say anything. But it's always great working in the games industry. There's so many different types of testing. Like I've already brought up I don't like the color of this person's hat. Or the game is just not turning on. But there's also really interesting stuff like poring over design documents that have been put together by some of the best people in the industry and just trying to figure out like, oh, if you do this and then this and then this, everything will explode. Sorry for popping the mic there. You cannot do this. It will literally mess everything up. So it's just like, after you're testing any type of game for any period of time, it could be an action game, it could be an RTS, it could be even an old school platformer. Everything becomes a puzzle game. Everything just breaks down into ones and zeros, and you're like, how do I stop this from working? How do I break this in ways that it cannot be? I now have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to go into the final form of testing, which is my favorite. It's using things in ways that they were not meant to be used. So it is, we'll get some really cool, great new mechanic in the game, and it's like, cool, let's say we're making a game of hammers and nails go into board. So you're like, cool, I'm going to use this hammer to hammer a nail into another nail, or use this nail to hammer another hammer into the board, or I'm going to hammer two hammers together and see how that breaks. So it's really interesting to just be like, oh, cool, I have a pen, I have an apple. Finally, so I said that I was going to do a QA session for the QA. I think it seemed like it was very funny in my head earlier. Oh, I've forgotten how to talk. So does anybody have any questions before I answer, before I have to leave? I'm sorry, that's not covered by reindeer. Good night, everybody.